let's just get to the business of the morning. I have the Punch newspaper with me and quite a whole lot of stories worth reading out for us this morning. From the pages of Punch newspaper, the big bold caption there, it's about Tinubu's inauguration. Security agencies raid hotspots. Biden names U.S. delegation, and a couple of writers is attached to that story there. Housing and Urban Development Secretary leads U.S. Team to May 29 handover. I don't know, Emmanuel is getting ready as well.
Yes, we're getting ready.
We're getting ready.
Yes.
We'll give you quite a whole lot of highlights coming from Eagle Square, Abuja on Monday. Security agencies raid hotspots. Now, I look at this, that first statement there. Why? Because there is an inauguration. We've known that these hotspots are places where the boys will come together, sit back, plan, strategize as to what they want to do, with or without the inauguration. Why has the security agencies sat back all this while? Because while all these guys strategize, they plan to wreak havoc. Why don't they pick them up before this period?
I think it's performative for me. I think it's performative. Most times, most of these security agencies, you know, they want to do things, as they say, for the camera, for the show, for people to know and see. You know, so I quite agree with you that these hotspots have been there. But then again, we've seen, I was having a conversation with a friend this morning on this particular story. We've seen an increase in some security issues prior to the inauguration, the protests, the statements that have been made by people. So I think it was further impressed on the security agents to make an open show of strength, you know, and tell people that, look, whatever it is you're planning, we're up to task. We can get you wherever you are. But it's performative for me. We seem to only do the right things when there is something at stake, when there's something that needs to be shown to the entire world, you know, and then that's when people start, that's when security agencies start raiding these hotspots, start picking people up. The news carries it and says 109 people have been picked up by security agencies ahead of the inauguration. But it's a good one that all security parameters are being looked at ahead of it.
As much as they do the needful, not after the inauguration, we see these young men or ladies, either way, we see them roaming the streets again. And also security agencies to restrict movement to Eagle Square beginning from Friday. Okay. And also UK ex-Prime Minister Blair meets President-elect, says running government a tough job.
Well, definitely a tough job coming from one of the most renowned administrators in the world, Tony Blair. He's been there, he's seen it all, and of course he knows now. I saw the delegation of the US that was announced by President Joe Biden. Quite a strong one, if you ask me.
Seriously,
quite a strong one. Some of the cabinet members in the US were sent down here, and then the commander of the U.S. Africa Command, Michael Langley, is also there. So it's a mix of both politicians and security. I suppose to also help shore up security.
Yeah, Langley has been the former CIA, no, FBI, FBI man. All right. We look forward to having you, and I hope they have a nice stay here in Nigeria at that moment. Moving down a little bit, it'll be just below the major caption. CBN revokes 179 microfinance banks, others licenses. That's amazing. 179. That's quite large. What happened? And if you're interested in that story, please, you can check it out from the pages of Punch newspaper this morning. And panic in Oshun as 35 PPOs hospitalized after irritating tear gas. Why?
Yes, that happened at Faculty School. Yes, I saw the statement of one of the lawmakers-elect, Adewumi, who he wrote a statement, was asking questions, really. What happened was that there was a training by the police mobile force, their barracks or their command at the faculty just opposite the school. So they were training tear gas thing, and then they sprayed the tear gas. It got into the school, the students inhaled it, and they were hospitalized. And he was asking a very salient question that there will be trainings from time to time. Why situate such an institution, a school, close to armed forces or the police, the training ground? What if they were shooting maybe rubber bullet or, trying to use tasers and all of that? I hope that the government can come into this, and I hope that it doesn't degenerate, because those are young people whose bodies may not be able to handle the harshness of the tear gas. But I hope it doesn't go beyond this.
And also from page, one of the pages of Punch newspaper this morning, okay, Amosun to blame Dangote relocated refinery to Lagos. That's credited to Abiodun. Why? What do you feel? What do you make of this?
Yes, he wrote a statement. He made a statement. People have been blaming him for losing the Dangote refinery to Lagos. Ondo and Ogun, some stakeholders have been going back and forth. But he said that he was not in power at the time the negotiations were going on. So if you want to blame anybody, blame him equally and also for. But again, away from the politicking, I think it shows how short-sighted our politicians can be and how much of instant gratification they want, to the point where it deprives them of future gratification.
Absolutely.
I mean, so someone somewhere must have been interested in how much are you giving us. If you're not giving us this, we are not budging. And then another community in Lagos felt bring it to do with it. Now everybody's trading blames, and probably they didn't see that it was going to come to fruition. But here we are, and here they are with their regrets. You can't beat it.
And on the top strip of the Punch newspaper for today, Tribunal Atiku Obi tackled Tinubu as hearing begins Tuesday. The much awaited, everybody seems to be looking forward to that.
Yes.
We'll keep our fingers crossed concerning that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the tribunals, consolidated the petitions against Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, APM, and all of that, brought them together. So we'll see proper hearing that will start on Tuesday. And it will not be televised, and phones have now been allowed. There were some protests yesterday, and I read later an update that phones have now been allowed into the court, because it was confusing for me. Even if you were to ban, say no to live broadcast, but phones.
It's my personal issue.
Yes, the lawyers too will need their phones to get materials and all of that. But then it's okay. It's good that they reversed that, and that hearing will begin on Tuesday. That's we are waiting. We're waiting to see how it goes for the country.
All right, you can pick up the Punch newspaper. I made so many other dailies we will be reviewing for you and with you this morning. Emmanuel?
Yes, that's all on the Punch newspaper. We move on very quickly now to the Nation newspaper. This morning, Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, banner headline that says, "We borrowed for projects to create wealth," says Buhari. President speaks on debt burden. Second Niger Bridge, roads, offices inaugurated, as on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And I'm glad that the president is actually, saying some of these things now. He's been speaking consistently at the inauguration of projects. Yesterday inaugurated the Second Niger Bridge. Yesterday there was a building that they inaugurated in Abuja for the customs service, but correctional service rather. But borrowing to create wealth for projects, I don't know. I believe that if you want to borrow, your borrowing must be for a purpose that can create return, that can help you generate at least some money to finance or to service the debt that you've incurred. And speaking on debt burden too, Nigeria's debt profile has risen astronomically under President Buhari, and saying now that Tinubu's government will inaugurate Lagos-Ibadan Road, and as all of those things put together will show you how much of President Buhari's administration Nigerians have analyzed. Just on the Punch newspaper, there was something about infrastructure deficit remaining wide. That's that story. At the bottom, the tribunal orders consolidation of PDP, Labour Party, APM petitions. Obi, Labour Party gets 3 weeks to prove case. Hearing must end August 8th. Witnesses to testify from May 30. That's on page 4 again of the Nation newspaper. And at the bottom strip, 35 Osun pupils faint after inhaling tear gas. And more redeployment in aviation. Below the nameplate, FRS to capture 90% of eligible taxpayers. CBN axes 132 microfinance banks on page 5. You may want to read up and know why the CBN has taken that position above the nameplate. Biden's team for Tinubu's inauguration. Blair says we'll back incoming government. And of course, the big story that's up running around that everyone is talking about now is on page 4 of the Nation. Foreign students barred from bringing family members to United Kingdom. I made mention of it on Monday on Spring Trends, where we showed you the advisory or the statement of the UK government. But it got worse yesterday when it was discovered that one of Nigerian citizens in the UK actually granted an interview to the BBC to tell the BBC that, well, most Nigerians aren't necessarily coming for the degrees, that they're just coming to look for greener pasture. Yes, we can get that video later and play it. And it sparked a lot of debate. Everybody's angry at the moment, saying you're a beneficiary of the system, and now you're telling these people that we're being dubious. I mean, that really changes the complexion of the conversation. But away from that, stop harassing Kogi officials, says the Supreme Court to anti-graft agencies. That's all on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Okay, let's move on this morning, and let me check out all the stories I have making the rounds as well from the Guardian newspaper for today. Division over oil search in North as NNPC returns to Lake Chad. There's still something that baffles me about Nigeria and Lake Chad. Mr. President seemed to be so interested. Remember that the rail lines, the bus, the cars,
yes, donations.
The donations, Lake Chad, and it's actually caused quite a whole lot of talk over the months, over the years, that probably Mr. President is a little bit partly from that point, part of Africa as well. And here we are, there's this division trying to, now that the last few days of his administration, are we looking at tunneling oil towards Lake Chad or getting oil from Lake Chad? There's so much. I still feel, and I feel there's something sketchy about this relationship between Nigeria and Lake Chad Basin within Niger and all this point, whereby Mr. President is so interested. But
we need to know why.
Exactly.
We need to know what's up with the President and the North.
Honestly, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and trust us, we'll always keep you abreast as to happenings around that. Then other stories still making the rounds. Buhari, 6 days to go. Buhari clears over 40 pending memos, appoint agency heads. Over 40.
They're pending.
Why? For 8 years.
And now we're waiting for, it's just 6 days, as clearing them. All the time he spent, going outside the country. It wasn't gallivanting, but just, attending all of those many
conferences.
He would have taken the time to, the way we run government here, it seems that it's a government of convenience. When it's convenient, I'll do it.
When it is not, please keep it for until then.
It's funny, man.
Other stories still making round from the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria absent as African leaders fault global debt financing models. Why were we absent? What was the Minister of Finance? What was she doing?
Wow, we'll have to ask.
Okay, I probably feel maybe
Ministry of Finance.
You'll be concerns as Buhari withholds assent to sexual harassment bill, days to exit. Why? That is something that should be. I know I was discussing with somebody, I think it was yesterday, and I felt like, look, if you're probably going to have the opportunity of traveling abroad, probably maybe United States, Europe, or somewhere, I would advise, like, if it's your first time, and if you are someone who cannot control your emotions, don't go during the summer. Summer is always a period whereby the Americans, Europeans would love to stay at the beach, just wear something not culture to our own kind of culture, whereby when you see them, you tend to like, why is this half-naked lady walking?
And you want to tell them harshly to go and cover up.
And you probably will end up in cell somewhere. So.
Because they are talking harshly to people and they are wondering what's wrong with you, don't you?
Like, what's your business about this?
The African in you jumps out and says,
why are you half dressed?
Will you go inside and change your clothes?
So I think the sexual harassment bill here in Nigeria as well is needed. It's worth having, because these days when you begin to hire a 56-year-old man, a 90-something-year-old man, raping a small girl of 12, 10, all this harassment should be stopped, and it's not worth it at all. Then moving on here, Supreme Court cautions against harassment of Kogi officials, pending outcome of suit. Okay.
Yes, pending the outcome there. It's important that we don't overdo things, in this part of the country, using state agencies to carry out vendettas and all of that. Let's be sure that we're doing the right thing. I like the position of the Supreme Court on that matter. The EFCC must be careful, and other anti-graft agencies, so that you don't cross the line between doing your job and witch hunting, and that when you cross into that line, it takes away the genuineness. People now begin to see your actions from, they're just witch hunting those people. It's important that they shun any form of harassment against the officials.
All right, and that's the little half for you from the Guardian newspaper for this morning, Emmanuel.
All right, so they take you down to the Daily Trust newspaper. Ministers hand over ahead of cabinet dissolution, as on page 4. Ministers are handing over ahead of cabinet dissolution. Pantami's belongings moved out of ministry. FCT minister orders more demolitions. Aviation Ministry appoints 20 new directors. Sadia Farouk in projects commissioning galore. FEC in marathon meeting. A lot of things happening at the same time as the Buhari administration winds down.
Yeah, this is the period where you begin to see them. Yesterday, while going through some of the dailies that came out, some of the stories that came out yesterday evening, and I saw yesterday government dissolves cabinet, and I think Kano as well. And this is the period whereby you like to look at the faces of your bosses, those who have been harsh, and say, okay,
you are living here now. You see yourself. Power
exactly. We always look at the fact that, look, whatever we do, let's do well. Posterity will always judge us in all ramifications.
Posterity will always judge us, and it's interesting now to see all of these people. Just many years ago, they were not really many years. Few years ago, they felt, I'm here, and now their belongings are being moved out of the various ministries. Well, away from that, mixed reactions trail new Sokoto marital expenses law, as on page 3 of the Daily Trust. 10 Borno local government areas not connected to national grid, Shehu of Borno. And at the bottom strip, second Niger Bridge commissioned, renamed after Buhari. That's on page 27. Below the nameplate, court consolidates Article B's petitions against Tinubu. Lake Chad oil well to yield 943 million barrels as Buhari flags off exploration. And the UK bars Nigerian students, others from traveling with their family. And before we leave, Daily Trust still in captivity. 4 schoolgirls of federal government college Benin Yari 708 days. 1 student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 684 days. We hope that these students are rescued and reunited with their families. But that's all on the newspaper review this morning. We'll be back after the break for the interview segment. To stay with us.
Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Westernspring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his personal and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works Obakoso, Obawaja and Moremi took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Westernspring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Westernspring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. Hilas Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in the deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remains a hero of his country, which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark mustache. Westernspring Television identifies Herbert Macaulay as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Westernspring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and The People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social-cultural and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Westernspring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Westernspring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Westernspring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news. as it is.
Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works Obakoso, Obawaja and Moremi took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Westernspring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Kololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Westernspring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. Silas Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in the deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remains a hero of his country, which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark mustache. Westernspring Television identifies Herbert Macaulay as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Westernspring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and The People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba socio-cultural and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Westernspring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Westernspring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. But Damosi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held a lofty...
All right, thank you for being there, and since we sincerely apologize for the little technical hitch. That's why we took a little bit of break, but just to make sure that you have the very best from us right here. Morning Spring is back, and we thank you for being there. In the course of yesterday evening, there was a news that broke out concerning UK, the United Kingdom, barring Nigerian students, others from bringing families as from January. What does this portend? Where do we go from here? We'll be looking into that very shortly, and definitely, if you're just joining us, let's welcome you properly. And I'm not seated alone here. Emmanuel Ojuadigale is somewhere beside me, and I don't know, trying to hide away from the fact that he's on the show with me.
All right, welcome back to the show. Still Morning Spring, and of course, we're looking at that incident happening in the United Kingdom. On Monday, I did show you on Spring Trends that the UK office was saying that they are going to stop foreign students from bringing their family members into the country, but it's not going to affect those doing their PhDs, just their masters. Well, there was another twist to it yesterday. While Nigerians were still trying to recover from that statement. A particular Nigerian, a YouTuber, gave an interview to the BBC and said some things that has really upset Nigerians. I would like to take a look at that video now before we come back to the interview. Let's just take a snippet of that is circulating on social media.
Specific research programs. The announcement's been made 2 days before official statistics are expected to show net legal migration has hit a record 700,000 this year. Our home editor, Mark Easton, reports.
Lights, a front room in the West Midlands, camera, a YouTuber helping Nigerians come to Britain, and action.
Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy E to the M.
Among ND's hundreds of videos are guides on how to get a student visa to come to the UK.
Because there's new information regarding the student route to the UK.
Last year, a fifth of international student visas were issued to Nigerians, 120,000 people in total, half of them students, half their dependents. But MD believes many are actually coming not for a new qualification, so much as a new life.
So the student thing is not real, it's not like they need the degrees. They need the degree as an access route to come into the country. So a lot of these people get their priorities shifted real fast.
So it's really about getting into the UK.
Exactly.
And then not about the job.
It's not really about the education.
Nigerians have a word for what's going on here.
And Nigerians are really very angry at that, saying it's not just about the education. I mean, throwing millions of Nigerians, hundreds or thousands of Nigerians under the bus there, telling the United Kingdom that they are not in the UK for education, but because they need a route into the United Kingdom. It's been sparking a lot of conversation this morning. We're joined in the studio by a legal practitioner, a human rights activist, and a socio-political commentator, Mr. Moses Abaditon. Thank you so much for your time on the show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Boris. Let's move on at this moment in time. What's your take concerning what the UK is looking at to bar Nigerian students, others from bringing in family members as from January? Where do we go from here? What does it portend for Nigerians?
Well, countries have what we call foreign policy. And from time to time, they review it. And if you realize that UK is saying that those who are coming are like fresh undergraduate for British education, will not be allowed to bring in their spouses or family. One question you should be asking, why? The reason shows to you that the British are not finding it easy economically. You realize within 6 months, 3 prime ministers has to vacate their seat because they could not get it right when they come into economic procedure in Britain. And not only that, you will also realize that in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, most of our leaders, they lost focus while they are in charge. Why they do more politicking than governance. we have been privileged, and I think including the himself, that to have been to that shore and realized that at a point in time we felt we should come home. And at this place, there's nothing wrong with our outcome. But today, this thing is not palatable. The period I was talking, there's a period where you could get casual job with PZ, you can go with Guinness and many other things. And then you now begin to, reject or take the other one. But the story is not. Why? Because the government are not doing what we call development plan. The economic policy of Nigeria are shoots in fraudulency, in the sense that it's no focus, nothing has happened. And in fact, recently, the World Bank told us that from 2015 to today, the Nigerian economy are stagnant. And when there's stagnancy, the tendency for the young one getting something to do is becoming difficult. And you can also understand, and I remember the Prime Minister of India, Nehru Gandhi, said that poverty is the mother of crime. Because of this poverty in Nigeria, the rate of crime is on the increase. And the reason is simply because there's nothing for majority of the youth to do. And so the other alternative is to migrate. Remember too, there used to be Andrew was checking out. The situation then was optional. You can check out or you check in. But today, people won't even want to go out. If it's possible, those who are aged want to go back without doing some meaningfully well. That in Britain and in US in particular, or foreign Western country, there are what we call the social allowances. Absolutely. If you cannot work, you will not be begging in the street. You hardly find people begging in the street as you find in Africa, because they will make some provision available for you, either in terms of what you eat, what to do, and many other things. So these are not available here. Rather, when our governors spend 4 years and they want to go, they get us a building in Abuja, 4 cars every 2 years, and many other things. It's only for elites by the elites. So these are the reasons why that accumulates to the extent that Nigeria now see what they call jackpot and running to Britain. So if that guy is saying that most of people who are coming, they are not coming because of education, they are coming because of economy, are they telling lies? Is it not the reality? So it should be a challenge to the people we elected, that if your people are migrating, they are contributing to the economy of that country, not yours. Because no matter how whatever you are doing in Britain, you will pay tax. And if you are paying tax to an economy, then that economy is likely to have a positive impact than where you are migrating. There's a minus, a deduction in the population density, and then the economic development of that country is not likely to develop. So these are some of the things. Even some of the country, some of our leaders who are not looking for a job, when they go there, do they use money? They don't use money. That's what we call medical tourism. Look at the billion they spend monthly, yearly on those areas. So it is now time for the government to look around and say, okay, what can we do? How can we make it a place where the youth will not need to go there, not because of education, but because they need a job? And that has to come into what we call planning. Because he who failed to plan is planning to fail. And our government has failed. But the fact that you fail doesn't mean you can't make it again. So let's look at alternative. What are those things that youth can do? For example, I know an average youth doesn't want to go to farm. But when you make farming beautiful, you provide, machinery, bulldozing them, give them, seedling, and many other things, accommodation, many things are there. People will show interest. If you cannot, you look at other areas. Look at the gas. If you ever been to Akwa Ibom, Ikorabasi, you will see gas flaring up. If you go to Eleme, you see, what can we do? What can't you convert this thing gas? People need it within and outside Africa. So these are many things the government are just looking around. All they want is just petroleum. And in petroleum, we have about 8 products, which you can know. And everybody is now waiting for Dangote. And Dangote cannot carry out social services. It's a capitalist economy. It's a capitalist per se. So, par excellence. So these are reasons why I said it was the failure of leadership. So until the leader able to get it around and say, what are those things we can do so as to get these people, alternative means instead of going to other country to conslave. Years back, we call it neocolonialism. That means in time past, they came to carry us as slaves. But though we are going there to make ourselves available slavery. So this is the reason why I felt what the British are doing is policy which they review from time to time.
All right, so we've been looking at all of these situations now, and then when you talk about international perception of Nigerians in Nigeria, some of these things, do you think they are based on how we are perceived as a people by foreign powers?
Remember, it is not only this immigration policy is not going to be for Nigeria alone. It's likely to be extended to other African countries. So the issue of perception, yes, they used to tell us that perception is different from reality, but the reality on the ground, look at Nigeria. If you happen to be a Ghanaian, what would be your assessment? It seems we are not getting it, and we are not bothered. All that matter is for leadership. For so long, like there's a saying by non-Yoruba said, Bamu bamu la yu awa omo pe bi npo mo enikokon. In our land today, there's abject poverty. People are hungry and angry. And if government are not taking cognizance, if you look at section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution, it talks about redistribution of resources. In one section, they say the economy of Nigeria should not be in the hands of some few, but rather it should be a distribution. If you come to section 14, it's talking about the responsibility of government. It shall be the duty of every government to see to the security of lives and property and welfare of the people. So where is the welfare? In Western country, if you are a citizen or even if you have a normal visa, that country owe you a duty to make sure you don't go into the street and beg. That's what we call social allowances, either in terms of money or in terms of food. So many things are made available that will not make people to commit suicide. At a point in time between 2020 to 2022, look at the number of people who are committing suicide. Either they borrow money they could not pay, or they have looked for jobs they could not get. Some even accuse their mother of responsible for their ill-luck and then kill their parent. So these are the things you don't find in Western countries. So the perception of what the other country feel about us does not bother our leader. And the reality on the ground shows that things are not going well. Things are not fine. The economy is not developing. And the alternative way is for people to move out. So either they perceive us evil or good, our leaders are not bothered. They are insensitive. All that matters to them is what they want. And that is good life for themselves and their family. And that's why you find them each time their children are sent to Western countries. This policy is going to affect more of the elitists. I mean, the elite group, because before you gather about 2 million, why will your mother? I remember about a year ago, one boy got admission into British school. And the mother has to be begging people, hey, Daku, help me. I need money to get this boy to school. You know, if you get there, how about feeding? How about that thing? So these are the things that were not here before. If you recall, your local government will give you what they call bursary. Your state will give you scholarship. There's other cocoa boards scholarship and many more other things. Some other foundation will assist you to go over there. All these ones are just no more there. And government are not bothered. Each time you say, we build roads. If you build road and the people are hungry, then they will make that road unpassable. And that's why you find people are kidnapping, because they know, if I can kidnap the son of a rich man, you can make millions within short time instead of carrying gun to bank. So these are the reasons why the land is not good. The people are they're hungry, and you know the abject poverty is there. But did you watch the national television about 48 hours ago, showing some kids, babies in their hands, being taken to hospital because they are malnourished? Their meal is like as if we are in a war-torn country, and it's Kashoko affecting them. And the reason why the UN are saying was that because they could not get food. So if it is so, and remember, this thing didn't come to us as accident. About a year ago, we were told that by July this year, Yobe, Borno State, and one other state will be facing this malnutrition because of shortage of food. And then look at other areas that leads to this shortage of food. Let's take Benue as an example. Benue used to be referred to as the food basket of the nation. And in the last 3 years or more, the farmer could not access their farm because of these hardest clashes. And people are dying on a daily basis. And government are not even making statements. They are not bothered. Can you find that in Britain or in US that a particular state, or let's say maybe one of the local government there, that people are daily being killed? And look at each time they shoot in a school. You know the number of police that go there and they go after those people to find them. But here, it's not becoming the normal life. So these are the reasons why people, whatever they perceive us, we seem not to bother.
Barrister, let's look at this. As last year, 2022, about 59,053 Nigerian students brought over 60,923 relatives to the UK. That's humongous. That's large.
It is.
But what does this portend if all these dependents can go to the UK again. We look at, let me first of all take it from the health side here in Nigeria. Most of our leaders themselves, they tend to want to go to UK, Dubai, more advanced nations for medical attention. And it has been said that except those on postgraduate levels and those who are doing their research will be allowed to bring in relatives while they study, they can actually have the opportunity of coming. If all these opportunities are restricted, what does it portend for Nigeria as students not being able to get this opportunity for family members in the UK?
You recall at the beginning of my introduction, I said that where there is a mass migration, it's going to affect not only the economy, it will affect other sectors. Then if a country that is sensitive notice that over 58,000 of its citizens are moving to a particular country, the first question is that these people, no matter how, they ought to contribute something to your country. And remember, they are going to use money in traveling. So that is a minus from the money that is available in our country. And then health-wise, these people one way or the other, because most of these people that you call moving with that, they are either nurses or auxiliary. And they are going to complement the effort of their husband when they get there. So that means it's a minus on the health sector. So if you take this one into consideration, those countries who are going to welcome them, in one way or the other, if it's not because of the economic adversity, they will gain what is our lost. So if government is going to plan properly, you tend to take statistics of your immigration because they have record, they have a passport office where these things have been taken out. So it's to review their policy. Then one, why is it that this thing is happening? And what are those things that we can do? You ask the question, say, what will be the repercussion? What will be the consequence? The consequence is that we are going to be on the receiving end in terms of the number of people who should have paid tax. Because it's not all these 58,000 that doesn't have a means of livelihood. It's just maybe what they are taking was just too small. And in one way or the other, they ought to contribute in one form or the other. So the government has to review it. And then look for the alternative ways of solving this sudden migration. And then if you cannot find the solution, you reach out. That's why we have foreign policy. Reach out to the other country. And then try and take the statistics. In this area who are coming, are they engaged? Are they adding value to the country in which they are? That's why we have ambassadors. Because most of Nigerians who go there, in one way or the other, have to link up with our embassy to know if they actually there as a problem or they are there a solution to that country. Because of this attitude of country not linking up, trying to complement the effort of the home country, the ambassador there just there, not fine. You can't work for America and not giving them maybe weekly reports of their citizens. And that's why each time something happened to their citizens outside America, they quickly take action. Look at what happened in Sudan. Look at how they send Navy, 7 Air Force, and make sure they. So, but here, our own country will just say, we learn they are coming tomorrow. We learn these are some of the areas where we felt the home country need to look around. What are these things? What are the solutions? People are not asking questions. The leaders are not bothered. Rather, even from the state level, we build bridge. We build this one. Very good. Do you build the people? Because these are the people that will determine what happened to the thing, to the infrastructure. So to me, I felt the government ought to wake up and look at, call the eggheads, the economic committee and said, this is the challenge our youth are facing. What are the alternatives? How do we assist them? What are those areas in which maybe the central bank can come in? You recall there used to be a program called NDE. National Directorate of Employment. Those are some of the, they did a lot. They will send you for training. After training, you have to prepare some document. You send them to bank. They give you loan and you become small director. These things are no more. Maybe they are on paper. They are just not there. So these are the area where government can begin to look and say, if you don't do it, in time past and in time to come, we are going to pay for it. And that's why I look at the number of people that voted. Number one, they are declining in the last 20 years. Because people are moving out in the register, most of the names will just be there, but they won't know they are no more here. And not only that, when after election, you also need to look around. Most of the institutions where these people are supposed to work, lecturers are not going to be available because they know the salary are not coming. Also, strike is there. So those who will have also moved out. Those people they will give them policy because they are now postgraduate students. So the government are not looking at that area. And that's why we have problem with the educational sector. You look at it, they will say Nigerian graduate cannot communicate. When he doesn't have a lecturer. The one lecturer to about, let's put this minimally, about 3,000 students. Who will look at your research work? Who will present? I remember when I was in ULAB for a postgraduate study, you have to present paper. And your critic has to be there, your HOD will have to be there. Because, and the old number there, I think, we are less than 100. The story is not the same today. So these are the implications where government are not looking at. They say, if ASU cannot take our salary, we cannot increase them, let them go everywhere. We have enough graduates. You have enough graduates. But what are those who are training them? So there are consequences, not only in the health sector, it's going to affect education. Then let's look at about security too. If you have people are moving out in large number. Yes. So those areas where people are supposed to occupy and they are not occupied, those people who have no reason to be there will be wrongly put in that region. And eventually they'll create some lapses because nature never creates anything for emptiness. And so if the number of people that are supposed to be recruited to the army, to the police are not there, let me also tell you, because this is a fact, you will notice a particular one or two states, they hardly feel their position in police. Because the people are just interested. Lagos is one. They would rather migrate. They would rather travel, believing that if I can get to US, if I can get to this place. So if you don't have enough, then how do you solve the insecurity of the people that are supposed to be recruited to know the nooks and crannies of Lagos? So these are some of the challenges that are going to follow this migration that government is not taking cognizance of.
Oh, okay, so do you think that all of these issues would not arise if we had a staunch educational system, a strong one? Most people are leaving because their excuses, because they want to seek better, some say outrightly they want to seek greener pastures, but others are saying it's for education. Do you think it's an indictment on our own education sector here?
Education, either because of education or no education. Education alone cannot solve a nation's problem. A nation is a system. And in your system, you don't take just one aspect. You have to take holistically. As you are planning for the number of people that will be educated, you're also planning for those who are going to be employed. You also plan for those who are going to be on retirement. You also plan for their health facility. So if you look around, the first question you're asking is, in the health sector, in the last 40 years, what is the percentage of our annual budgets? Did you expand them? Have you been to government hospital recently? You've seen some on the floor. Because the number of bed spaces are not enough. And you cannot stop sickness from come. Like Olarotimi said, he said sickness is like rain that fall on anybody's roof. So when it comes, what is the planning of the government? And then let's come back to the general illness in Africa, which is malaria. In developed countries, they have eliminated mosquito by either using insecticides, raiding forests, making sure there's no pond where their eggs can grow, and then ensure that those who come in as those who have the parasite are treated as if they have leprosy by isolation. In our own country here, you will see government spending 6 trillion on insect on net.
Mosquito net.
Mosquito net. Is that the way to cope? No. You will study some other countries that have achieved a higher rate in this fight against malaria. Then let's look around. In yesterday's paper, we were told that children between 5 years old and downward, that we on a monthly basis we lost over 57,000 in a country like this. Then what is the plan for the mother and child? What are those things they have put in place? Is it because the parent could not access the hospital, or the doctors are not there? Look at the number of one doctor to the patients in that place. We were told that it's supposed to be 1 to 300. In our own country, we have 1 to 1,000, one doctor. So how efficient is that one? Let's leave that one. Let's come to equipment. During the Obasanjo, some equipment were brought, which we knew. Some of them were already outdated. Some of them are just mere engine. And they remain outside the hospital and they got spoiled there. And then After that one, where are the consequences? Recently, one NGO has just taken federal government to court that there was a CCTV contract in Abuja. A loan we took from China. They install it, it never function. No query, nobody is asked. So these are the area where you do planning. So the fact that they went for education doesn't mean we don't have institutions that can take them. Just recently, these dying days of this government, they were still approving more private university. We may have education, but the issue is, where will you put these people? Where will they be engaged? Those who are taking measure against them, they said they are not coming here because of education. They are coming here because they need job. They are coming here with their family. And it was not a Nigerian video we just watched now. Yes. They say most of them are not coming because of education. And that's the reality. The reality is that a country cannot engage, a government cannot engage every citizen. But they can bring what we call enabling environment. You create a situation where people can have alternative. If I cannot work with government, I can work on my own. Look at the mechanics. Some years back, you see female becoming mechanics, and they are doing fine. Recently, you see some of them taking to other driving or that kind of thing. To give them a loan, give them a lot of things. So people will think twice. If I'm going over there, I'll be sleeping in the street. The way they will even be treating me, where's your paper? You know, when your destiny is expired, before you know the next available flight, you are back home. And some borrow money to go there. So look at those who are even going through Arab, Morocco. So number of people that die in the desert. So it is not because our education is not good. It is because our government are not planning. Those who are listening to us will remember in the military, we hear 10-year development plan. You hear 5 development plan. That in this way we're going to, in this sector, we're going to do so in this one. So when last did you hear them? And some of them say, look, by 2030, this is the government that is going this week. And it's planning for us that by 2030, what do you call it? The power, they are planning on power will have 60 megawatts. I begin to laugh. This thing you are telling us, Egypt did it. They took a loan of 85,000 million pounds. And they invested it, and they were able to get 60,000 megawatts we are talking about. So the problem is just because we put a round peg in a square hole. Most of the people who are in charge, they were there because they just want to be known as them, but they do not have the mental capability. And even when you even lack, why don't you invite advisor? Please advise me on this area. What do I do? I was reading a write-up yesterday from one of these national dailies. Said a governor invited me and said, please advise me. As I said, advise on what? He said, I don't know, what program will I do? He has won election and he's now inviting somebody. So what is your blueprint? What are those things you use in campaigning? And that's the generality of the thing that affect us as a nation. Our leaders have no blueprint. They have no vision. And when you don't have a vision, you can't have a mission. Until you have this thing, by this first year, I'm going to do this one, and that's one. Where do I get the money? Then you bring the gurus. Please advise me. How do we generate money? Everything is not loan. There's the private partnership. You engage them. Look at the number of the loan we have taken. Can you run this road? If you do it, you'll be collecting tolls on it. At least when it is moderate. You have been to some other country. Where did you see people running into dish because of poor road? Because you have to pay for that services. So the hospital we are even talking, where they are going, you are you are president for 8 years, and you keep on going, even for ear, even for teeth, and then at your last minute going, you are now doing one in Ashore. Why don't you have one in teaching hospital, either ABU or UCH, and so that whatever I've seen over there, I can duplicate them, and then they say Buhari Medical Center, so that in the future people don't have the money can run to that place. But ironically, do you remember we used to make the Indian and the laughing stock? Are people now going to India?
Absolutely.
Yes, because they have developed, and they have not just the one day, they sat down. The same thing, I think in China, they came and said, but that was as 979. That look, at rate which our population is on the increase, we are going to run into trouble. Therefore, one man, one child. Anybody that violates it will be sanctioned. Those who obey it will be rewarded. Look at the population. The last time we talked about population control was under IBB.
Yes.
There are 4 children to 1 family. And somebody will come, no, it's for 1 woman. So I now marry 5 women. So that means 4 times 5, that's 20. And what is my income? So there is population density, and government are not planning for them, no family planning, and the economic thing cannot meet it. So why we not have abject poverty? So it's not just education, it is planning. It is leadership. It is leader that shows the way. And when you show the way, people will follow.
Pastor Moses, we just have to allow you go this morning. Well, we thank you for your immense contribution on the program this very morning. Thank you most sincerely for joining us.
Thank you for the privilege.
Pastor Moses is a legal luminary, a legal practitioner, a public affairs analyst, a social commentator. He's been with us on the program for today. And we wish him the best, and you please enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
And this is about that moment. We'll call it a wrap on the show this morning. We'll be back again tomorrow, 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. We'll bring you definitely another episode on that. But I think Emmanuel still's got...
Yes, I'll be coming back to give you spring trends.
All right, then. I am going.
Yeah, you should go.
But don't be surprised. It might be the Jackpa.
Well, that's Tunji Kolo there. We'll see tomorrow on the show. Tunji Kolo, we'll see tomorrow.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.